There are stairs leading down. You are standing at the top of them now, looking into the earth, into a passage that descends at a gentle angle into darkness. The walls on either side are stone, not laid stone, not bricks or blocks fitted together by human hands. This is living rock, the raw limestone of the island itself, carved away to create a passage just wide enough for a single person to walk through. The ceiling is low, not uncomfortably so, but low enough that you are aware of it. Low enough that you feel the presence of the earth above you, its weight, its age, its patience. You take the first step down. The air changes immediately. You feel it on your skin before you notice anything else. The warmth of the Mediterranean afternoon, the dry, bright heat of a Maltese summer, falls away behind you like a curtain dropping. What replaces it is something cooler, something damper, something that has not been touched by sunlight or wind for a very long time. This air has been sitting in these chambers for hours, for days, for centuries. It has its own temperature, a steady 16 degrees. Unchanging, whether the world above is baking in August heat or shivering through the rare Maltese frost of a January night. The air down here does not know about seasons. It does not care about them. It has its own constancy, its own deep geological patience. You take another step, and another. The daylight from the entrance behind you grows dimmer. The passage curves slightly, and the sunlight cannot follow the curve. Ahead of you there is only the soft glow of carefully placed lighting, modern lighting, designed to illuminate without damaging. But in your mind you can strip that away. You can imagine what this descent was like 5,000 years ago, carrying a small clay lamp, a wick floating in animal fat, the flame guttering with each step. Throwing your shadow against the carved walls in shapes that shifted and danced and seemed almost alive. The stone beneath your feet is smooth, worn smooth, not by machines or by deliberate polishing, but by feet, thousands of feet, tens of thousands of feet. Over hundreds of years, people walked down these stairs. They carried their dead. They carried their offerings. They descended into the earth to perform rituals that we can only guess at, in chambers that we can only marvel at, and their feet, bare or sandaled, wore the stone as smooth as glass. 5,000 years of footsteps. Pressed into limestone, you are walking where they walked, breathing air that fills the same spaces their air filled, touching walls that their hands touched. You are entering the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, the only known prehistoric underground temple in the world, carved from solid rock on the island of Malta sometime around 4,000 years before Christ, older than the pyramids of Egypt, older than Stonehenge, older than the great ziggurats of Mesopotamia, older than almost every structure still standing on the surface of the earth. And it is not on the surface, it is beneath it, 3 levels deep, carved downward into the living limestone by people who left no written records, no names, no explanation of who they were or why they built what they built. Only this extraordinary labyrinth of chambers and passages and halls, hidden beneath the earth, waiting in the darkness for 5 millennia. Until a workman's pick broke through the ceiling one ordinary afternoon in 1902, and the modern world stumbled upon something it could barely comprehend. But let us not rush. Let us not hurry down these stairs. There is no need. The Hypogeum has been waiting for 5,000 years. It can wait a few minutes more. And you have nowhere else to be tonight. No obligation pulling at you. No deadline approaching. No task left undone that cannot wait until morning. Tonight you are here, in this passage, descending slowly into the warm limestone of Malta. And the only thing required of you is that you breathe and listen. And let the story unfold at its own unhurried pace. Breathe in, feel the cool, damp air fill your lungs. It tastes of stone, of mineral, of deep time. Breathe out, feel your shoulders drop. Feel the muscles in your neck soften. Feel the small, persistent tension behind your eyes begin to dissolve, like salt dissolving in warm water, slowly, gently, without effort. To understand the Hypogeum, you must first understand Malta, and Malta is one of the most extraordinary places on Earth, though you might not think so at first glance. It is small, remarkably small. The entire Maltese archipelago, the main island of Malta, the smaller island of Gozo, the tiny island of Comino, and a handful of uninhabited rocks, covers just 316 square kilometers. You could fit the entire country inside the boundaries of most European cities and have room to spare. It is the 10th smallest country in the world, a speck on the map, a comma in the great sentence of the Mediterranean. But what a comma, what a strategically placed, historically significant, culturally dense little comma it is. Malta sits almost exactly in the center of the Mediterranean Sea. Draw a line from Gibraltar to the Levant. Draw another from Sicily to the coast of North Africa. Malta sits near the intersection of those lines, roughly 90 kilometers south of Sicily, roughly 300 kilometers north of the Libyan coast. It is the fulcrum of the Mediterranean, the pivot point, the place where the Western Basin meets the Eastern Basin, where Europe faces Africa, where the sea narrows and the distances between continents shrink to something almost manageable. Every great maritime power in Mediterranean history has understood Malta's importance. The Phoenicians knew it, the Romans knew it, the Byzantines, the Arabs, the Normans, the Knights of St. John, who turned the island into a fortress so formidable that it withstood the full might of the Ottoman Empire in the Great Siege of 1565. Napoleon knew it and seized it on his way to Egypt. The British knew it and held it for a century and a half, using it as the linchpin of their Mediterranean fleet. During the Second World War, Malta endured a siege so brutal, so relentless in its aerial bombardment, that King George VI awarded the entire island the George Cross for collective gallantry. The cross still appears on the Maltese flag today. But all of this, Phoenicians and Romans and knights and bombers and George Crosses, all of this is recent history, a thin veneer of documented time laid over something far older and far more mysterious, because long before any of these civilizations arrived, long before the first Phoenician trading vessel anchored in Malta's harbors, the islands were home to a culture that built on a scale and with a sophistication that still baffles archaeologists. The islands themselves are limestone. That is the fundamental geological fact about Malta, and it explains almost everything about the place. There is no granite here, no basalt, no hard igneous rock born of volcanic violence. Malta is sedimentary. The islands are the exposed tops of an underwater ridge, the same ridge that connects the mountain ranges of Sicily to the mountain ranges of Tunisia. A bridge of rock beneath the sea that was once dry land, and may one day be dry land again, as the Mediterranean's tectonic plates continue their slow, restless shifting. The limestone is layered, two main types. The upper layer is called coralline limestone, harder, more resistant to weathering, forming the flat plateau that covers much of the island's surface. Below it lies Globigerina Limestone, softer, warmer in color, a honeyed yellow that glows in the Mediterranean sun and gives Malta's architecture its distinctive appearance. This is the stone from which the great churches and palaces of Valletta are built, and this is the stone from which the Hypogeum was carved. soft enough to work with the stone and bone tools available to Neolithic people, hard enough to hold its shape for 5,000 years. The landscape is dry. Malta receives less than 600 millimeters of rain per year, and most of that falls between October and March. The summers are long and hot and almost completely rainless. There are no rivers, no lakes, no permanent streams. Fresh water has always been scarce and precious, drawn from wells and cisterns and the occasional spring. The vegetation is Mediterranean scrubland, tough, drought-resistant plants. Wild thyme and carob and prickly pear, and the occasional ancient olive tree twisted into sculptural forms by centuries of wind and sun. It is a landscape that can feel harsh at first, stark, stripped back to its essentials. There is no lush green countryside here, no thick forests, no gentle rolling hills cloaked in soft grass. The beauty of Malta is a mineral beauty, a beauty of stone and light, and the sea that surrounds everything. The coast is dramatic, sheer cliffs of white limestone dropping straight into water so blue it looks artificial. Sea caves and natural arches and hidden coves where the water is clear enough to see the sandy bottom 10 meters below. The harbors are deep and sheltered, natural inlets that have provided safe anchorage for every fleet that has sailed the Mediterranean. And the light of Malta is extraordinary. It is the light of the central Mediterranean, intense, golden, falling on the limestone buildings and the limestone cliffs and the limestone fields with a warmth that makes everything glow. In the early morning and the late afternoon, when the sun is low, the entire island turns the color of honey. The stone walls, the church domes, the ancient temple ruins, everything glows with the same warm amber radiance, as if the island itself were a lamp. Lit from within, burning with a slow, steady geological flame. And yet people came here. People have always come here. The earliest evidence of human settlement on Malta dates to approximately 5900 BC. The first settlers almost certainly came from Sicily, crossing the 90-kilometer strait in simple boats or rafts, bringing with them their animals and their seeds and their traditions and their hopes. They were Neolithic farmers. They grew wheat and barley. They raised cattle and sheep and goats. They built simple structures of stone and mud and thatch, and they began, slowly, over centuries, to develop a culture unlike anything else in the ancient Mediterranean. It started with temples, or rather, it started with whatever the impulse is that makes human beings look at the raw material of the world, at stone and earth and sky, and feel compelled to shape it into something sacred, something that says, we are here, we matter, our relationship with the forces that govern our lives, the sun and the rain and the fertility of the soil and the mystery of death. These relationships deserve to be honored. They deserve to be marked in stone. The temple-building culture of Malta is one of the great wonders of the Neolithic world. Between approximately 3600 and 2500 BC, the people of Malta and Gozo constructed more than 30 megalithic temples across the two islands, 30 on islands covering barely 300 square kilometers. These were not simple cairns or stone circles. They were elaborate, multi-chambered structures built from enormous limestone blocks, some weighing 20 tons or more, fitted together with remarkable precision and arranged in distinctive cloverleaf plans that are found nowhere else on Earth. The oldest of them is Ggantija. Say it carefully, Ggantija. It stands on a hilltop on the island of Gozo, overlooking the sea, two temples side by side, their massive boundary walls still standing to a height of 6 meters in places. Ggantija was built around 3600 BC, That is more than 5,500 years ago. It is older than the Great Pyramid of Giza by approximately 1,000 years. It is older than Stonehenge by approximately 600 years. It is, along with a handful of other Maltese temples, among the oldest freestanding stone structures in the world. Think about that. While the rest of Europe was still building in wood and thatch, while the great civilizations of Egypt and Mesopotamia were still centuries away from their first monumental constructions, the people of these tiny limestone islands in the middle of the Mediterranean were raising walls of stone that would stand for 5,000 years. They were engineering on a scale that seems impossible for a small island society with no metal, no writing, no wheels. No mechanical advantage beyond human muscle and simple tools of bone and stone and antler. And they were doing something else, something stranger, something that takes the story in a direction no one could have predicted, while their contemporaries across the ancient world were building upward, raising stones toward the sky, stacking block upon block to create structures that reached for the heavens. The temple builders of Malta turned the other way. They went down, they went underground, into the soft limestone beneath their feet, into the body of the earth itself. Let that thought settle. Let the surface world grow quieter around you. The sun, the wind, the dry scrubland, let them fade, because we are going down now, down into the soft Globigerina Limestone, down into the earth, down into the place where the temple builders took their most sacred traditions and carved them, not into the sky, but into the rock beneath their feet. Breathe in, slowly. Feel the cool air of the underground passage fill your chest. Feel it settle into your lungs like water settling into a well. Breathe out slowly. Let everything that belongs to the surface remain on the surface. Down here, in the earth, there are no obligations, no urgencies, no noise, only stone, only silence, only the ancient, patient darkness that has been waiting here, undisturbed, for longer than recorded history. The temple builders of Malta, who were they? This is one of archaeology's most tantalizing questions, because we know so much about what they built and so little about who they were. They left no writing, no inscriptions, no texts of any kind. Everything we know about them comes from their architecture, their artifacts, their burial practices, and the mute testimony of the stones themselves. They are a civilization defined entirely by what they made, not by what they said. What they made was extraordinary. Over the course of roughly 1,000 years, from around 3600 to 2500 BC, they built their temples across Malta and Goes with increasing skill and ambition. The earliest temples are relatively simple, thick walls of rough-hewn limestone enclosing small chambers, but by the middle period, around 3300 to 3000 BC, the builders had developed a sophisticated architectural vocabulary. The temples of Hagar Kim and M. Najdra and Tarxian display a mastery of stone working that is remarkable for any period, and almost unbelievable for the Neolithic. The blocks are precisely shaped, the facades are carefully planned, the interiors are divided into apse-like chambers arranged around a central axis, creating a plan that resembles a clover leaf or a stylized human body. Some archaeologists have suggested that the temple plans may represent the body of the goddess, the rounded apses echoing the wide hips and full figure of the deity they worshipped. This is speculation, but it is not unreasonable speculation. Because the art they left behind is dominated by a single recurring image. The figure, the fat figure, she appears everywhere, in stone, in terracotta, in tiny amulets and in statues large enough to have been taller than a person when complete. She is always large, always heavy. Her body is rounded and full, enormous thighs, wide hips, heavy arms. Sometimes she has a head, sometimes she does not. Her neck terminating in a socket into which different heads could be inserted for different ceremonies. She sits, she stands, she reclines, she is. In whatever form she takes, unmistakably powerful, unmistakably sacred. Is she a goddess? Most archaeologists think so. A mother goddess, a fertility goddess, a deity associated with the abundance of the earth and the mystery of birth and the cycles of growth and decay that govern all living things. She is fat because fatness, in a world where food was scarce and hunger was a constant threat, was not a sign of indulgence but of power, of plenty, of the ability to sustain life. Her body was the body of the earth itself, generous, nourishing, endlessly productive. The temple builders also left behind elaborate pottery, decorated with spirals and curves and geometric patterns. They left behind stone tools of considerable sophistication, flint knives and scrapers imported from Sicily because Malta has no flint of its own, obsidian blades from the volcanic islands to the north, bone awls and needles and polishing stones that were used to shape the very walls of the temples themselves. They left behind shell ornaments and stone beads. They left behind evidence of complex burial practices, the bones of their dead carefully arranged in communal ossuaries, sometimes sorted by type, skulls in one area, long bones in another, as if the body needed to be dismantled and reorganized before it could take its place among the ancestors. They left behind evidence of feasting, of animal sacrifice, of rituals conducted in the inner chambers of their temples that involved fire and incense and the offering of food and drink to forces that we can no longer name. The remains of animal bones found in the temple precincts tell us what they ate and what they offered to their gods. Cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, the domestic animals that sustained their farming economy. The bones show marks of butchery and burning, suggesting that animals were slaughtered and cooked as part of the temple rituals. The meat shared between the worshippers and the gods in a communal meal that bound the living to the divine. There are also traces of something harder to interpret, small stone balls, too regular to be natural, found in several temples, carved stone discs, objects that might be gaming pieces or counting tokens or elements of a divination system. The temple builders had an intellectual life that extended beyond the merely practical. They thought about things, they counted things, they played, they speculated, they looked at the world and tried to make sense of it. And they left behind the small, mute objects that were their tools for doing so. And then, around 2500 BC, they vanished. Not gradually, not through a slow decline that can be traced in the archaeological record. They simply stopped. The temples were no longer maintained. No new ones were built. The distinctive pottery disappeared. The fat goddess figurines disappeared. The entire cultural tradition that had sustained Malta for 1,000 years came to an abrupt and mysterious end. What happened? Theories abound. Famine, disease, climate change, soil exhaustion. The islands are small and their topsoil is thin, and 1,000 years of agriculture might have stripped it away to the bare limestone beneath. Internal conflict, external invasion. Perhaps the religious system that had sustained the temple-building culture became too demanding, too rigid, too detached from the practical needs of a farming community struggling on increasingly depleted soil. Perhaps the priests demanded more and more labor for temple construction, while the harvests grew smaller and smaller. until the whole system collapsed under the weight of its own contradictions. We do not know, we may never know. What we know is that the temple builders disappeared and new people arrived. People with different pottery, different burial customs, different gods. People who used the old temples as quarries and built their own structures from the recycled stone. People who knew nothing of the fat goddess or the elaborate rituals that had once filled the cloverleaf chambers with smoke and chanting and the smell of burning animal fat. The temple tradition of Malta lasted 1,000 years and then ended as completely as if a door had been shut. The new arrivals, people of the Bronze Age, brought with them metalworking and different pottery styles and cremation rather than communal bone burial. They had no interest in the fat goddess, no use for the cloverleaf temples, no reason to descend into the carved chambers beneath the earth. The surface temples fell into disrepair, the stones weathered. Vegetation crept over the ruins, and the Hypogeum, sealed by debris and soil and the slow accumulation of centuries, disappeared from human memory entirely. The earth closed over it, the way the earth closes over everything eventually, patiently, completely, without malice or intention, just the slow gravitational settling of soil and stone and time, and behind that sealed door, in the darkness beneath the earth, the Hypogeum lay forgotten, waiting. Let the mystery of their disappearance settle around you like a blanket. You do not need to solve it. No one has solved it in 5,000 years. Let it be what it is, an unanswered question, a gentle puzzle with no sharp edges, something to turn over in your mind as you might turn a smooth stone over in your hand, feeling its weight, its coolness, its age. The earth holds many secrets. Not all of them need to be uncovered. Some are better left sleeping in the stone. Breathe in, the cool air fills your lungs. Breathe out, feel it leave you, feel the rhythm of it, the simplicity in and out, the same rhythm that has sustained every human life that has ever been lived, the same rhythm that sustained the temple builders as they carved their chambers in the dark, the same rhythm that sustained the 7,000 as they lived their lives on these small limestone islands and then descended, one by one, into the earth. In, out, let the rhythm carry you. Let it be the only thing you attend to. Everything else can wait. The history, the archaeology, the unanswered questions, let them rest. They have been waiting for 5,000 years. They can wait a few minutes more. The year is 1902. The place is Paola, a town on the outskirts of Valletta, Malta's capital. Paola is ordinary, a working-class neighborhood of narrow streets and flat-roofed limestone houses, churches, shops, the daily business of a small Mediterranean town going about its unremarkable life under the administration of the British Empire. A construction crew is at work. They are cutting cisterns, water storage tanks, into the soft limestone beneath a housing development. This is routine work in Malta. The island has no rivers and little rainfall. Every drop of water must be collected and stored. Every house needs a cistern. The workmen know their trade. They know the limestone. They know how it cuts, how it fractures, where the soft layers give way to harder ones. They have done this many times before. The pick strikes stone, the stone gives way, and then it gives way too much. The pick breaks through into empty space, not solid rock below, not more limestone to be cut, a void, a cavity, an opening in the earth that should not be there. One of the workers widens the hole, peers into the darkness below, feels the cool air rising from the opening, air that is a different temperature from the air above, air that has been sealed in the earth for a very long time. He can see nothing. The space below is completely dark. but he can sense its size. The echo of his breathing tells him this is not a small crack or a natural fissure. This is a chamber, a room, something carved by human hands. Imagine being that worker. Imagine kneeling on the dusty ground of a construction site in 1902, sweat on your brow from the afternoon heat, the mundane sounds of picks and shovels around you, and then suddenly feeling cool air rising from a hole in the ground, air from another world, air from another time. You lean forward, you hold a candle over the opening. The flame flickers and bends in the rising current, and in the dim, wavering light you see walls, smooth walls. Curving away into darkness, carved stone, something ancient and strange and utterly unexpected beneath the ordinary streets of an ordinary Maltese town. That moment, that first glimpse, is lost to us. No one recorded the worker's reaction. No one asked him what he felt, but we can imagine astonishment, unease, perhaps a little fear. The discovery of the Hypogeum was one of those rare moments when the modern world tears a hole in the thin surface of the present and glimpses the vast depth of time beneath. The discovery was not handled well. This is one of the small tragedies of Maltese archaeology. The workers initially tried to hide the opening. There are suggestions that some of them used the chamber as a dumping ground for construction debris. It was not until the local authorities became involved that the significance of the find began to be appreciated. And even then, the response was inadequate. Father Manuel Magri was assigned to excavate the site. Father Magri was a Jesuit priest and a member of the Society of Archaeology, History, and Natural Sciences. He was not a trained archaeologist in the modern sense. He was an enthusiastic amateur in an era when the boundary between amateur and professional was blurred, and when the techniques of careful, systematic excavation that we take for granted today were still being developed. Magri began his work. He dug, he explored, he removed material from the chambers, and his records were sparse, inadequate, frustrating. He kept notes, but they were incomplete. He drew plans, but they were rough. He removed artifacts from the site, but his documentation of where exactly each object was found and in what context was woefully insufficient. Layers of sediment that contained crucial information about the sequence of use and deposition were dug through without proper recording. Bones were removed from their original positions without adequate notation of how they had been arranged. And then Father Magri was sent to Tunisia on a mission, and there, in 1907, he died before publishing his findings, before organizing his notes into a coherent report, before sharing with the scholarly world the details of what he had discovered beneath the streets of Paula. His notes survived, but they were fragmentary. Much of what he had observed and recorded in his own memory, the details too fleeting or too complex to write down in the moment, died with him. Sir Themistocles Zammit, the Maltese archaeologist who took over the excavation, did his best to piece together what Magri had found and to continue the work with greater rigor. Zammit was a better scientist. His records are more thorough, his methods more systematic, but the damage was done. The earliest deposits, the ones most closely associated with the original construction and use of the Hypogeum, had been disturbed before Zammit ever entered the site. Information had been lost, context had been destroyed, and some of that information can never be recovered. It is a familiar story in archaeology, the tension between the excitement of discovery and the discipline of careful recording, the temptation to dig fast, to uncover, to reveal, at the expense of documenting. Father Magri was not a villain. He was a man of his time, doing his best with the knowledge and tools available to him, but the cost of his haste and of his death before publication was high. The Hypogeum has secrets that were uncovered and then lost again. Not to the earth, but to the chaos of inadequate record-keeping. What Magri and Zammit and the generations of archaeologists who followed them found beneath the streets of Paula was something without parallel in the ancient world. A subterranean complex carved from solid Globigerina Limestone, descending 3 levels into the earth, covering approximately 500 square meters, comprising dozens of interconnected chambers, halls, passages, and niches, an underground temple, an underground necropolis, an underground world. There is nothing else like it, nowhere on Earth. In all the excavations of all the archaeological sites ever investigated, no one has ever found another prehistoric underground temple. There are catacombs, of course, there are mines, there are burial chambers cut into rock faces and hillsides, but a complete multi-level temple complex, deliberately carved from the living rock to replicate the architecture of surface buildings, decorated with paintings and carvings. Used for both worship and burial over a span of perhaps 1,500 years, this exists only once, only here, only beneath the streets of Paula in Malta. 3 levels. Think of it as 3 chapters of a story told in stone, each chapter deeper than the last, each carved in a different era, each reflecting a different stage in the evolution of the builder's skill and ambition. Upper level is the oldest. It dates to approximately 4000 BC, making it contemporary with the earliest megalithic temples on the surface above. This level is relatively simple. Natural caves and rock shelters, the kinds of voids that occur naturally in limestone terrain, were expanded and modified by human hands. The ceilings were raised, the walls were smoothed, passages were cut to connect chambers that had previously been separate, burial niches were carved into the walls. Small, grave-sized hollows into which the dead could be placed and sealed away from the world of the living. These earliest chambers have an organic quality. They feel as much like natural caves as like constructed spaces. The walls follow the contours of the rock. The ceilings are uneven. There is a sense of adaptation rather than creation, of people working with the stone rather than against it, taking what the earth offered and shaping it gently into something useful, something sacred. You can imagine the earliest stages. A natural cave mouth in the limestone hillside, perhaps already used for shelter or storage or the casual burial of the dead. And then some unnamed person 6,000 years ago, looked at the back wall of the cave and thought, what if we went further? What if we carved a little deeper, made the space a little wider, opened up a niche here, extended a passage there, not a grand plan, not an architectural blueprint, just a gradual deepening. A slow expansion. The way a river carves a canyon, not in a single dramatic event, but through the patient, repetitive application of small forces over long periods of time. The tools they used were simple: antler picks, stone hammers, bone chisels. The Globigerina limestone is soft enough to be worked with such tools, especially when freshly exposed and still damp with the moisture of the earth. It hardens on exposure to air, a property that the builders may well have understood and exploited. Carve it while it is soft, let it harden in place. The result is a surface that resists weathering and holds its shape for millennia. The middle level is the masterpiece. This is where the builder's ambition and skill reached their peak, dating to approximately 3,300 to 3,000 BC. This level was not adapted from natural caves, but carved entirely from solid rock. Every surface you see was once part of the continuous limestone body of the island. Every chamber, every passage, every pillar and lintel and doorway was created by removing stone, by carving away everything that was not the temple. Like a sculptor releasing a figure from a block of marble, the builders of the Hypogeum released their temple from the body of the earth itself. The main chamber is the heart of this level. It is a large, roughly oval space, several meters across, with a high corbelled ceiling that rises into a dome shape above your head. The walls curve inward as they ascend, each course of stone slightly overstepping the one below it, until they meet at the top in a rough approximation of a dome. This is corbelling, one of the oldest construction techniques known to humanity, and seeing it here deep underground. Carved not from separate blocks, but from the solid rock of the earth, is an experience that makes the breath catch in your throat. The surfaces are smooth, astonishingly smooth, whatever tools the builders used, and they were tools of stone and bone and antler, they achieved a finish that seems almost impossible for the materials available. The walls flow like liquid that has been frozen in place. There are no chisel marks visible to the naked eye, no rough patches, no evidence of the immense labor that must have gone into removing thousands of cubic meters of limestone from these chambers. The work has been erased. Only the result remains. Consider what this required. First, the rough carving, the removal of the bulk of the stone, hacking and chipping and levering out great chunks of limestone to create the basic shape of the chamber. Then the shaping, the careful refinement of the surfaces, bringing the walls into their final curves and contours. Then the smoothing, hour after hour of rubbing the stone with polishing stones and abrasives, smoothing away every mark and irregularity until the surface was as even and as silky as skin. This final stage alone, the polishing, must have taken longer than the carving. It is painstaking work, repetitive, meditative, the kind of labor that requires not strength but patience, not force but attention, not urgency but the willingness to spend days, weeks, months, moving a polishing stone back and forth across a surface until the stone surrenders its roughness and becomes smooth. It is the work of people who were in no hurry, people who measured progress not in hours or days, but in seasons and years, people for whom the act of making was itself a form of devotion, as sacred as the rituals that would eventually be performed in the finished chambers. Leading off from the main chamber are smaller rooms and passages, side chambers, niches, alcoves. Some are barely large enough for a single person to stand in. Others are more spacious, room-sized, with their own carved features and their own architectural details. And it is these details that make the middle level of the Hypogeum truly extraordinary, because the builders did not simply carve rooms. They carved a temple, an underground replica of the temples they were building on the surface. Look at the doorways. They are trilithons, two vertical pillars supporting a horizontal lintel. This is the classic form of the Maltese megalithic temple entrance, the same arrangement of stones you would see at Hagar Kim or Najdra or Tarxian. But here, deep underground, the trilithons are not built from separate blocks of stone. They are carved from the living rock. The pillars are not standing stones placed in position. They are columns of limestone left in place when the surrounding rock was removed. The lintel is not a separate block lifted into position. It is a horizontal band of stone connecting the tops of the pillars, all of it continuous with the ceiling and walls around it. The builders carved false beams into the ceilings, rectangular ridges of stone that mimic the wooden beams you would find in a surface building. But there are no beams here. There is no need for beams. The ceiling is solid rock. The beams are purely decorative. They exist because the builders wanted this underground space to look like a surface temple. They were recreating in stone, deep beneath the earth, the architecture of the world above, as if the dead or the gods needed to feel at home. As if the familiar forms of the temple, the trilithons and the beams and the curved walls, were necessary not for structural purposes, but for spiritual ones. The dead needed to recognize where they were. The rituals needed the right setting. The gods needed the right stage. And then there is the oracle chamber. Step into it now. In your mind, step through the low doorway, duck your head slightly, and enter a space that is perhaps 2 meters wide and 3 meters deep. A small room, almost intimate. The walls curve around you like cupped hands. The ceiling is low and close. You are enclosed, held, cradled by stone. On the right-hand wall, there is a niche, a carved oval recess, about 1 meter high and perhaps 60 centimeters deep, cut into the limestone with the same smooth precision that characterizes the rest of the middle level. It looks like a window that opens onto nothing, just the solid rock behind it, or like a small altar, or like a speaking hole. And that is exactly what it is. Stand before the niche, lean close to it, and speak in a low voice, a deep voice, not a whisper but a full, resonant utterance from deep in your chest. Let the sound leave your mouth and enter the carved recess. What happens next is one of the most remarkable acoustic phenomena in the ancient world. Your voice, if it is deep enough, does not simply echo. It does not simply bounce back at you from the curved wall of the niche. It resonates. The sound enters the niche and the niche captures it, amplifies it, transforms it. The carved curves of the limestone act like a resonating chamber, like the body of a guitar or the bell of a trumpet, and the sound is projected outward. Not just into this small room, into the entire complex, through the passages and chambers and halls of the middle level, through doorways and along corridors and into spaces dozens of meters away from where you are standing. The walls vibrate. You can feel it, not a violent vibration, not a shaking, a humming, a deep, subaudible thrumming that you feel in your chest before you hear it with your ears. The stone itself seems to sing. The entire hypogeum becomes a resonating chamber, a vast stone instrument played by the human voice. But here is the extraordinary detail. This effect works only with certain frequencies. A deep male voice, speaking or chanting at a frequency of approximately 110 Hertz, produces the full resonant effect. The sound fills the chambers. It wraps around you. It seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, from the walls themselves, from the stone, from the earth, but a high-pitched voice, a woman's voice or a child's voice, does not produce the same effect. The resonance does not activate. The sound remains local, confined to the oracle chamber, not transmitted through the complex. 110 Hertz. Remember that number. It is important. It is the frequency at which the oracle chamber resonates most strongly. And it is a frequency that researchers have found to have specific effects on the human brain. Studies conducted by archaeoacoustic researchers, including a landmark study by Dr. Ian Cook at the University of California, have shown that sustained exposure to sound at 110 Hertz produces measurable changes in brain activity. Specifically, it appears to reduce activity in the left prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain associated with language processing, logical analysis, and the kind of linear verbal thinking that dominates our waking lives. And to increase activity, in the right prefrontal cortex, the region associated with spatial awareness, emotional processing, pattern recognition, and what we might loosely call intuitive or holistic thinking. In other words, 110 Hertz appears to shift the brain from a state of analytical wakefulness to a state of something else, something more receptive, more open, more dreamlike, a state in which the boundaries between self and environment become less rigid, in which the ordinary defenses of rational thought soften and the mind becomes more susceptible to suggestion, to emotion, to the kind of deep, wordless experiences that we associate with meditation or trance or profound spiritual encounters. Was this intentional? Did the builders of the Hypogeum understand what they were doing when they carved the oracle chamber to resonate at precisely 110 Hertz? This is a question that cannot be definitively answered, but the circumstantial evidence is striking. Consider this: the resonant frequency of the oracle chamber is not accidental. It is a function of the chamber's dimensions and shape, the curvature of the walls, the depth and width of the niche, the volume of the space. These are not random features. They were deliberately carved. Every surface was shaped by human hands. The builders chose these dimensions. They chose this curvature. Whether they understood the physics of acoustics in the way that a modern engineer would, almost certainly not. But they may well have understood it empirically. They may have carved and tested, carved and listened, carved and felt the effect on their own bodies and minds. They may have refined the shape of the niche through trial and error over generations, not because they understood the mathematics of resonant frequencies, but because they knew what it felt like when the sound was right, when the voice entered the stone and the stone spoke back, when the humming filled the chambers and something shifted in the mind of every person present. And consider this: the same frequency, 110 Hertz, has been found to be significant at other ancient sites. The Passage Tomb at Newgrange in Ireland, built around 3200 BC, has a chamber that resonates at approximately the same frequency. The painted caves of Lascaux in France, where Paleolithic humans created their extraordinary animal paintings, show evidence of acoustic design that favors low-frequency resonance across cultures, across millennia, across vast distances. Ancient builders seem to have independently discovered or been drawn to the same frequency, the same deep humming that shifts the brain from waking analysis to something older, something deeper, something that the rational mind does not have a name for, but that the body recognizes instantly. Imagine it now. You are standing in the oracle chamber 5,000 years ago. The small clay lamp in your hand casts a warm, unsteady light that makes the carved walls seem to breathe. Around you, in the main chamber and the side rooms and the passages beyond, other people are gathered, dozens of them, perhaps more. They are here for a ritual. The nature of the ritual is lost to us, but we can guess at its elements. There is the smell of burning, herbs or fat or resin smoldering in a stone bowl. There is the dimness, the near darkness of the underground, broken only by the small, wavering flames of oil lamps. And there is the sound. A voice begins, a man's voice, deep and resonant. He speaks into the niche, or perhaps he chants, a single sustained note, low, steady, and the chamber catches it, amplifies it, sends it rippling through the stone like a stone dropped into still water sends ripples across a pond. The humming fills the space. It fills the passages. It fills the lungs and the bones and the skulls of every person present. It is not a sound that you hear with your ears alone. It is a sound that you feel in your body, in your chest, in your jaw, in the base of your skull. It is a vibration that passes through you the way light passes through glass, not stopped by your boundaries, but transmitted through them. And something shifts. The analytical mind, the part of you that calculates and judges and categorizes and worries, grows quiet. The boundaries between self and surroundings soften. The darkness is no longer empty but full of presence, full of connection, full of something that you cannot name, but that feels ancient and familiar and profoundly safe. This is what the builders created, not just a room, not just a temple, an instrument, a technology of consciousness, a machine for altering the state of the human mind using nothing more than carved stone and the human voice. Think about what that means 5,000 years ago, in the Neolithic, before the wheel, before writing, before metal. The temple builders of Malta engineered a space that could alter human consciousness. They did not have the vocabulary of modern neuroscience. They did not know about prefrontal cortices or brainwave frequencies or the lateralization of cognitive function. But they knew what worked. They knew that when a deep voice spoke into the carved niche, something happened. Something changed in the minds and bodies of everyone present. Something that made the rituals more powerful, the connection to the dead more vivid, the presence of the divine more tangible. They were acoustic engineers, empirical neuroscientists, architects of consciousness, working with nothing but stone tools and their own extraordinary sensitivity to the relationship between sound and space and the human body. And the instrument they built still works. 5,000 years later, the oracle chamber still resonates at 110 Hertz. The stone still sings. The effect on the human brain is still measurable. The technology has not degraded. It has not become obsolete. It is as effective today as it was when the first voice spoke into the niche, and the entire Hypogeum hummed in response. Let that humming settle into you now. Even though you cannot hear it, imagine it, 110 Hertz, a low, steady vibration. Feel it in your chest, not loud, not intrusive, just present, a constant, gentle thrumming, like the purring of a large cat, like the distant rumble of thunder that never quite arrives, like the deepest note of an organ played so softly that you feel it more than hear it. Let it carry you deeper, into rest, into quiet, into the still, dark, safe space that exists beneath all the noise of the surface world. The Hypogeum has held this silence for 5,000 years. It can hold you too. Beyond the oracle chamber, deeper into the middle level, there is a space known as the Holy of Holies. You approach it through a passage that narrows as you go, the walls closing in gently, the ceiling lowering, as if the earth is drawing you closer, holding you more tightly. And then the passage opens into a chamber, and before you is a facade carved from the living rock that takes your breath away. A trilithon doorway, 2 pillars and a lintel, carved from the same continuous stone as the walls and ceiling around them. But this doorway is not a simple architectural element. It is a frame, a portal, an entrance to something sacred, and above it, across the lintel and the walls surrounding it, there are paintings. Red ochre, the color of dried blood, the color of the earth in certain places where iron oxide stains the soil. Red ochre was one of the most important pigments in the ancient world, used for tens of thousands of years by cultures on every continent. It was found in Neanderthal burial sites. It was used in the cave paintings of Lascaux and Altamira. It was smeared on the bodies of the dead by cultures from Australia to the Americas to the frozen steppes of Paleolithic Europe. There is something primal about red ochre, something that connects it to blood and to earth and to the deepest layers of human symbolic thinking. And here, in the Holy of Holies of the Hypogeum, it was used to paint spirals. Spirals, curving lines that wind inward toward a center or outward toward infinity. They cover the lintel and the surrounding surfaces in flowing organic patterns. They are not random, they are not casual doodles. They are carefully executed, each line painted with a steady hand and a clear intention. The spirals are similar to those found carved into the stones of the surface temples, the same motif appearing above ground and below, linking the two worlds of Maltese temple culture in a single visual language. What do they mean? The spiral is one of the most universal symbols in human culture. It appears in the art of the Celts, the Aboriginal Australians, the ancestral Pueblones of the American Southwest, the ancient Minoans of Crete. It has been interpreted as a symbol of growth, of journey, of the cycle of life and death, of the path of the sun across the sky, of the movement from the outer world to the inner world, from the surface to the depths, from waking to sleep, from life to whatever lies beyond. Here in the Hypogeum, painted above a doorway that leads into the deepest and most sacred space in the entire complex, the spirals may represent all of these things, or none of them. We do not know what the builders saw when they looked at their own art. We can only see what we see, and what we see is beautiful. Red curves on golden stone. An ancient hand reaching across 5,000 years to touch our eyes with color and form, and the simple, powerful desire to make something beautiful in the darkness. The decorated room adjoins the Holy of Holies. Its ceiling is covered with more red ochre painting. Here the designs include circles and spirals and plant-like forms that some scholars have interpreted as stylized trees or vines, tendrils reaching across the stone ceiling, as if the builders wanted to bring the natural world underground, to remind the dead and the living that even here, deep in the earth, life persists, growth continues, the vine reaches upward, the spiral turns. These are the only known prehistoric paintings in Malta. They exist only here, only in the Hypogeum. Whatever tradition of painting the temple builders possessed, whatever other walls they may have decorated on the surface, the paintings are gone, weathered away, destroyed by time and rain and sun. Only the underground paintings survive, preserved by the darkness, by the stable temperature, by the still, damp air that has changed so little over the millennia that the red ochre pigment remains vivid and legible on the stone. The lower level lies deeper still, descending from the middle level through narrow passages and steep stairs. You enter a space that is rougher, less finished, more utilitarian than the elaborately carved chambers above. This level dates to approximately 3000 to 2500 BC, the final phase of the Hypogeum's active use. The chambers here are smaller. The carving is less refined. There is a sense of work still in progress, of expansion that continued downward, even as the culture that drove it was approaching its mysterious end. One feature of the lower level draws particular attention: a pit, known simply as the well. It is approximately 2 meters deep, cut into the floor of one of the lower chambers. Its purpose is debated: storage, ritual deposition, a repository for offerings, or perhaps, and this is a thought that carries a particular chill, a place where the last deposits of human remains were made before the Hypogeum fell silent. The lower level may also have been used for grain storage. The constant temperature and humidity of the underground chambers would have been ideal for preserving food. In a world without refrigeration, the earth itself was the refrigerator, cool, dry enough to prevent mold but damp enough to prevent desiccation. The Hypogeum may have served the double function of sacred space and practical larder, the spiritual and the mundane coexisting in the same carved-out darkness. There is also evidence on the lower level of how the builders managed the practical challenges of working deep underground. Ventilation shafts, narrow chimneys cut upward through the rock to the surface, allowed fresh air to circulate and the smoke from oil lamps to escape. Without these shafts, the deeper chambers would have been unworkable. The air would have become stale. The lamps would have gutted and died. The workers would have suffocated. The shafts are narrow, too narrow for a person to pass through, but wide enough for air to move. They are functional rather than decorative, but they tell us something important about the builders. They were not simply carving randomly into the earth. They were solving engineering problems. They were thinking ahead. They understood that a space underground requires different solutions from a space on the surface, and they found those solutions with the same ingenuity that characterizes every aspect of the Hypogeum's construction. 7,000, that is the number of human remains found within the Hypogeum. 7,000 individuals, their bones recovered from chambers and passages and niches throughout the complex, accumulated over centuries of use. 7,000 people, laid to rest in the darkness beneath the earth. Men and women and children, old and young, the healthy and the sick, the powerful and the ordinary, all of them brought down the narrow stairs, through the carved passages, into the lamplit chambers, and deposited in the stone embrace of the Hypogeum. The burials were not haphazard. There was ceremony, there was ritual. Red ochre was applied to some of the bones, staining them the same color as the painted spirals on the walls. This practice, the application of red ochre to the dead, is one of the oldest ritual behaviors in human history. It connects the Hypogeum to a tradition stretching back tens of thousands of years, to the Paleolithic, to the very origins of symbolic thought. To stain the bones red was to mark them, to set them apart from ordinary death, to transform the dead from mere corpses into something sacred, something that belonged not to the world of decay and dissolution, but to the world of spirits and ancestors and the eternal patterns painted on the temple walls. The bones were not always left in their original anatomical arrangement. In many cases, the bodies appear to have been allowed to decompose elsewhere, perhaps in surface tombs or exposure platforms where the flesh was removed by time and weather and the attentions of scavenging animals. Then the cleaned bones were gathered, sorted, and redeposited in the Hypogeum. Skulls with skulls, long bones with long bones, a careful, deliberate arrangement that speaks of a complex funerary process. Multiple stages of death and transformation, the body moving from the world of the living to the world of the dead through a series of ritual transitions. 7,000 souls. Imagine them not as skeletons, not as archaeological specimens catalogued and numbered and stored in museum drawers, but as people, each one with a face, a voice, a name, each one loved by someone, mourned by someone, carried down those worn stone stairs by hands that trembled with grief or reverence or both. Each one a life lived on these small limestone islands in the middle of the Mediterranean, fishing in the clear waters of the harbors, tending wheat and barley on the thin, stony soil, raising children, growing old, watching the sun set over the sea and wondering, as all people wonder, what comes after. And when the end came, when the breath stopped and the eyes closed and the body began its slow return to the elements from which it was made, they were brought here, to the Hypogeum, to the temple beneath the earth, to lie in the darkness with the spirals and the carved pillars and the deep, resonant silence of the oracle chamber, to sleep in the stone. Let the image of them rest. Let it be gentle. There is no horror here, no violence, only the ancient, universal human need to honor the dead, to give them a place, to believe that death is not an ending but a transition, not a disappearance, but a journey to somewhere deep and quiet and safe. The sheer number, 7,000, tells us something else. It tells us that the Hypogeum was not reserved for an elite. 7,000 people over 1,500 years of use amounts to roughly 5 burials per year. In a community of perhaps a few thousand living individuals, that represents a significant proportion of all deaths. This was not a royal tomb, not a pharaoh's pyramid reserved for the divine ruler and his closest attendants. This was a communal resting place. A place where the community as a whole laid its dead. The farmer and the priest, the child who died in infancy and the elder who lived to see grandchildren, all of them brought to the same carved chambers, all of them laid among the same ochre-stained bones, all of them received by the same darkness. There is something democratic about it, something egalitarian, in a world that we often imagine as rigidly hierarchical, with priests at the top and laborers at the bottom. The Hypogeum suggests a different kind of society, one in which death, at least, was a great leveler, one in which the community of the dead was open to all. Among all the artifacts recovered from the Hypogeum, among the pottery and the stone tools and the beads and the amulets, one object stands apart. One object has become the symbol of the Hypogeum itself, and perhaps the most famous artifact in all of Maltese archaeology. The Sleeping Lady. She is small, only about 12 centimeters long. She is made of terracotta, fired clay, shaped by hands that knew exactly what they were doing. She lies on her side on a low couch or platform. Her head rests on what appears to be a pillow. Her knees are drawn up slightly. Her arms are tucked close to her body. Her eyes are closed. She is, unmistakably, asleep. Her body follows the conventions of Maltese temple art. She is full-figured, wide hips, heavy thighs, a body that speaks of abundance and fertility. Her clothing, if it is clothing, is indicated by finely incised lines that suggest a pleated skirt or dress. The couch beneath her has carved legs, suggesting furniture of a type we can only imagine. Every detail is precise. Every line is deliberate. This is not a rough sketch. This is a finished work of art, created with skill and care, and something that might be tenderness. What does she represent? This is the question that haunts every visitor who stands before her glass case in the National Museum of Archaeology in Valletta. Who is she? What is she doing? Why was she placed in the Hypogeum, among the bones of 7,000 dead, in a temple carved from the living rock? She is sleeping, that much seems clear. Her posture, her closed eyes, her relaxed limbs. She is not dead. She is not in the stiff, unnatural pose of a corpse. She is sleeping, deeply, peacefully. The sleep of someone who feels completely safe. The sleep of someone who has surrendered entirely to the darkness and the silence and the steady, cool embrace of the underground. Perhaps she represents death itself. Death conceived not as an ending, not as a violent termination, but as a form of sleep. The dead do not die, they sleep. They lie down in the earth and they close their eyes and they rest, the way the living rest each night, but their rest is longer, deeper, unbroken by morning. This is one of the oldest and most comforting metaphors in human culture. Death as sleep, the eternal rest, and the sleeping lady may be its earliest known artistic expression. Or perhaps she represents something different. Temple sleep, incubation, The practice, known from ancient Greece and Egypt and many other cultures, of sleeping in a sacred space in order to receive divine visions or healing dreams. The supplicant would enter the temple, lie down, close their eyes, and wait for the god or goddess to send a message through the medium of the dream. The practice of temple incubation is well documented in the ancient Mediterranean. In Greece, the temples of Asclepios, the god of healing, were specifically designed for it. The sick would come to the temple, they would undergo rituals of purification, they would fast, and then they would lie down in a special sleeping chamber called an abaton and wait for the god to visit them in their dreams. The dream was the diagnosis. The dream was the cure, the connection between sleep and healing, between the unconscious mind and the divine, was taken as literally and seriously as any medical prescription. If this practice existed in Malta 3,000 years before it appeared in Greece, then the sleeping lady may be its earliest known representation, and the Hypogeum, with its darkness, its stillness, its resonant acoustics that could shift the brain into an altered state of consciousness, may have been the world's first purpose-built sleep temple, a place where the living came to sleep among the dead. To lie down in the darkness and the humming resonance of 110 Hertz, and enter a state of consciousness in which the boundary between this world and the next became thin enough to see through. We do not know. The sleeping lady keeps her secrets behind her closed eyes. She has been sleeping for 5,000 years. She has outlasted the culture that made her. She has outlasted the temple that housed her. She has outlasted the bones of the 7,000 dead among whom she was placed. She sleeps on, serene, undisturbed, dreaming whatever dreams a terracotta figure dreams in the silence of a museum case. There is something deeply calming about her, something that transcends the archaeological questions and the academic debates and the scholarly arguments about interpretation and meaning. She is simply peaceful. She is the embodiment of rest, of surrender, of the deep, unhurried letting go that sleep requires and that the waking mind so often resists. Look at her in your mind, her rounded form, her closed eyes, her gentle curled posture. She is not struggling, she is not resisting, she is not trying to be anywhere other than where she is. She has let go completely, utterly, and there is a kind of instruction in that, a kind of permission if the sleeping lady, who has been sleeping for 50 centuries, can let go so completely. Perhaps you can too. Perhaps tonight, just for tonight, you can follow her example. Close your eyes. Curl gently into your resting place and let the earth hold you. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Hypogeum is what it imitates. The underground chambers do not look like caves. They do not look like mines or tunnels or natural underground spaces. They look like buildings. Specifically, they look like the megalithic temples that were being built on the surface of Malta during the same period. The connection is unmistakable. The trilithon doorways of the Hypogeum replicate the trilithon entrances of Hagar-Kim and Najdra and Tarxian. The corbelled ceilings imitate the roofing techniques used in surface temples. The curved walls echo the apse-like chambers of the cloverleaf temple plans. The carved false beams on the ceilings reproduce the appearance of wooden roof beams that would have been found in surface structures. Even the layout. A central space with smaller chambers radiating from it mirrors the basic plan of the Maltese megalithic temple. The builders were not simply digging holes in the ground. They were creating an underground version of their sacred architecture, a temple beneath the earth, a mirror image of the temples above, but inverted, subterranean, hidden from the sun and the wind and the world of the living, reserved for the dead and for the rituals that connected the living to the dead. Why go to the extraordinary effort of recreating temple architecture underground? Why not simply bury the dead in simple grave or natural caves? Why carve pillars and lintels and false beams from solid rock when the dead cannot see them and the living will only visit in lamplight? Perhaps because the dead needed to recognize where they were. If death was a transition, not an ending but a passage to another state of being, then perhaps the dead needed to arrive in a familiar place. A temple, a sacred space, a place whose forms and proportions they recognized from life. The trilithon doorway said, "You are in a temple, you are in a sacred space, you are safe." The carved beams said, "This is a real building, this is a real place, even though it is underground. Even though it is carved from the body of the earth. It is as real as the temples where you worshipped during your lifetime, as real as the world you left behind." Or perhaps the imitation served the needs of the living rather than the dead. Perhaps the rituals performed in the Hypogeum required the setting of a temple. Perhaps the priests needed the correct architectural context, the right proportions, the right arrangement of space in order to perform the ceremonies properly. The temple form was not decorative. It was functional, spiritually functional. Without the trilithons and the corbelled ceiling and the curved walls, the rituals would not work. The gods would not listen. The dead would not rest. Or perhaps, and this is the simplest explanation of all, the builders carved their underground spaces to look like temples because that was what they knew how to build. Their architectural vocabulary was the vocabulary of the megalithic temple when they imagined a sacred space. It had trilithons and corbelled ceilings and curved walls. It could not be otherwise, just as a Gothic cathedral builder could not have designed a Greek temple. Just as a Roman engineer could not have conceived of a flying buttress, the temple builders of Malta could not have imagined a sacred space that did not look like their temples. The underground architecture of the Hypogeum is a faithful translation of their surface architecture into a different medium. Stone blocks became carved rock, built pillars became carved pillars. The forms remained the same, only the method of creation changed. Whatever the reason, the result is hauntingly beautiful. To stand in the middle level of the Hypogeum is to stand in a space that feels both constructed and natural, both human and geological. The curved walls have the warmth of architecture. The solid rock has the permanence of the earth. You are in a building that is also a cave, a temple that is also a tomb, a human creation that is also a geological formation. The boundaries between human and natural, between made and found, between art and earth, dissolve in the smooth, golden stone. There is one other comparison worth making. In many cultures around the world, the concept of the underworld, the realm of the dead, is imagined as a place beneath the earth. The Greek Hades, the Mesopotamian Ker, the Egyptian Duat, the Norse Hell, the concept seems almost universal. The dead go down, they descend into the earth. They pass through darkness into another realm that mirrors the world above but is separate from it. The Hypogeum may be the earliest known physical expression of this idea, a literal underworld, a real place beneath the earth where the dead were taken and where the architecture of the living world was recreated in stone. The temple builders of Malta did not just imagine an underworld, they built one. They carved it from the rock with their own hands, and they filled it with their dead, and they painted its walls with the same spirals that decorated their temples above ground. They made the metaphor real. They turned the abstract concept of a realm beneath the earth into a concrete physical space that you could walk into and touch, and hear the resonance of your own voice echoing through its chambers. It is an extraordinary achievement, not just of engineering or architecture, but of imagination, of the ability to conceive of another world and then to build it. The Hypogeum is fragile. This is the uncomfortable truth that hangs over every visit and every discussion of the site. 5,000 years of stability, 5,000 years of constant temperature and humidity, and still undisturbed air were disrupted in the 20th century, first by the excavations of Magri and Zammit, which opened the site to the atmosphere and introduced fluctuations in temperature and humidity that the delicate ochre paintings had never experienced. Then by the enthusiastic crowds of visitors who came to see the newly discovered wonder. Then, most dramatically, by the Second World War. During the war, the Hypogeum was used as an air raid shelter. This is one of those historical facts that makes you wince. One of the most extraordinary archaeological sites in the world, a place of profound antiquity and irreplaceable cultural significance, was used as a place for frightened civilians to shelter from Axis bombing raids. They huddled in the carved chambers while explosions shook the ground above. Their breath, the breath of hundreds of people in an enclosed underground space, changed the humidity. Their body heat changed the temperature. Their presence introduced organic material, skin cells, hair, clothing fibers, bacteria, into an environment that had been essentially sterile for millennia. The damage was not catastrophic, but it was real. The ochre paintings began to deteriorate. Mineral deposits formed on some surfaces. Biological growth, algae and fungi appeared in areas where increased humidity and light created conditions for colonization. The Hypogeum, which had survived 5,000 years of geological time without significant degradation, began to show signs of stress within decades of its discovery. The response of the Maltese authorities has been a model of conservation. After years of study and monitoring, strict access controls were imposed. Today, only 80 visitors per day are allowed to enter the Hypogeum. 80 in a world of mass tourism, where major archaeological sites receive thousands or tens of thousands of visitors daily. The Hypogeum admits 80. The tickets must be booked weeks or months in advance. Visitor groups are small, no more than 10 people at a time. The visits are timed and supervised. The time spent in each chamber is carefully controlled. The reason is simple. Human beings are warm. We exhale carbon dioxide and water vapor. We shed skin cells and hair and fibers. We carry bacteria and fungi on our bodies. Every visitor to the Hypogeum changes the underground environment in small but measurable ways. Too many visitors, and the changes accumulate. The humidity rises, the temperature fluctuates, the air chemistry shifts, and the painted spirals, the carved surfaces. The delicate equilibrium that has preserved this place for 5 millennia begins to degrade. Temperature sensors monitor the air in every chamber. Humidity gauges track moisture levels continuously. Code 2 monitors measure the concentration of carbon dioxide and trigger alerts if levels rise above acceptable thresholds. The lighting is minimal and generates almost no heat. The ventilation system maintains airflow without creating drafts that might desiccate the painted surfaces. Every aspect of the visitor experience has been designed to minimize impact on the site. It is a strange kind of fame. The Hypogeum is one of the most important archaeological sites in the world and one of the least visited. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that most people will never see, a masterpiece of ancient architecture that is slowly being hidden again. not by the earth that originally concealed it, but by the conservation measures necessary to protect it from the very people who wish to admire it. The site was closed entirely for a decade, from 1990 to 2000, while a major conservation project was undertaken. Engineers installed a climate control system. Conservators stabilized the ochre paintings. Drainage was improved to prevent water infiltration from the surface. New lighting was designed, fiber optic systems that produce illumination without heat. New walkways were constructed to prevent visitors from touching the carved surfaces. When the Hypogeum reopened in the year 2000, it was a different experience from the one that earlier visitors had known. More controlled, more regulated, more careful, but also more sustainable. The 80 visitor limit was not arbitrary. It was calculated from data, from years of monitoring, from the precise measurement of how much carbon dioxide and water vapor 80 human bodies exhale over the course of a 1-hour visit, and whether the ventilation system can return the atmosphere to baseline before the next group arrives. The waiting list for tickets can stretch to weeks. In peak season, months, there are travelers who plan entire holidays around the availability of Hypogeum tickets, booking them first and arranging everything else around that single, precious 1-hour slot underground. It is, in its way, a form of pilgrimage, a journey undertaken with deliberation and patience to reach a place of extraordinary significance. The temple builders would perhaps have understood that. Their own journeys into the Hypogeum were almost certainly undertaken with similar deliberation, similar preparation, similar reverence. There is something poignant about this, and something appropriate. The Hypogeum was hidden for 5,000 years. It existed in darkness, in silence, in the stable, unchanging conditions of the deep underground, and now, having been briefly exposed to the light and the noise and the breath of the modern world, it is being returned, as much as possible, to something like its original state: darkness, silence, controlled conditions, the minimum of human intrusion. The sleeping lady would understand. She has always preferred the quiet. And there is this thought, which is worth holding gently as you drift. The Hypogeum was underground for 3,500 years before it was discovered. It may well have been underground for 3,500 years after the last person entered it alive. That is a very long time to be alone in the dark, a very long time for the paintings to glow unseen, for the oracle chamber to sit in silence, its resonant niche waiting for a voice that never came. For the sleeping lady to sleep with no one watching. And yet it endured. Every carved surface, every painted spiral, every smooth wall and corbelled ceiling and trilithon doorway, all of it endured. The earth kept it. The darkness preserved it. The constant temperature and the still air and the absence of light and wind and rain, all of these things that might seem hostile to human comfort, were in fact the perfect conditions for preservation. The Hypogeum survived precisely because it was forgotten, because no one disturbed it, because no one improved it or repaired it or renovated it or adapted it for new purposes. It was simply left, and the earth, patient and faithful and unsentimental, kept it exactly as it was. There is a lesson in that, about the value of stillness, about the preserving power of quiet, about what survives when we stop interfering and simply let things be. Let yourself settle now. Let the information, the dates and the numbers and the archaeological details, let them drift. They are not gone, they are just resting, the way the sleeping lady rests, the way the 7,000 rest in their stone chambers. the way the earth itself rests beneath the busy surface of the modern world. You are underground. In your imagination, you are in the Hypogeum, the middle level. The air is cool, 16 degrees, always 16 degrees, the same temperature that has held steady in these chambers since the stone was first carved, the same temperature that held steady while empires rose and fell on the surface above, while the Phoenicians came and went, while the Romans came and went, while the Arabs and the Normans and the Knights of St. John came and went, while bombs fell and fires burned and the entire island trembled under the violence of modern warfare. Down here, 16 degrees, always steady, unchanging, reliable in a way that nothing on the surface can ever be. The air is still, there is no wind underground, no breeze, no draft, the air does not move, it simply is present, patient, filling the chambers the way water fills a pool, evenly, completely, without turbulence. You breathe it in and it fills your lungs, and you breathe it out and it returns to the chamber and nothing changes. The exchange is gentle, effortless. The air does not resist you. It does not push back. It simply receives your breath and gives it back, taking from it what it needs and returning the rest. The way the earth takes the dead and returns their elements to the living world above. The silence here is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of something else, a quality of attention, a kind of listening, as if the stone walls are not merely reflecting sound but absorbing it, taking it in, holding it the way they hold the warmth of the bodies that have passed through these chambers over the millennia. The silence has texture, depth, weight. It is the silence of a place that has heard many things, chanting, praying, weeping. The low resonant hum of a voice speaking into the oracle niche, and has held them all, kept them all, filed them away in the crystalline structure of the limestone, the way a library files away books. If you listen carefully, you can almost hear them, almost, not quite. The sounds are too old, too faint, too deeply embedded in the stone, but the echo of them is there. The memory of them is there. 5,000 years of human voices pressed into limestone like flowers pressed into the pages of a book. Listen to your own breathing. That is the sound of the hypogeum now, the soft rush of air entering your lungs, the quiet sigh of it leaving, in, out, in, out. It is the same sound that every visitor makes, the same sound that every priest and mourner and pilgrim made 5,000 years ago. The mechanics of breathing have not changed. The lungs have not changed. The air itself, composed of the same nitrogen and oxygen and trace gases, has not changed when you breathe in this space. You are performing the same act that has been performed in these chambers for 50 centuries. You are connecting yourself to every person who has ever stood here through the simple, universal, irreducibly human act of drawing breath. Feel the stone around you. It is smooth, warm to the touch, despite the cool air, because limestone holds warmth differently from the air that fills its spaces. Run your hand along the wall, feel the curve of it, the way it arcs above you, closing overhead in the gentle corbelled dome of the main chamber. This stone was once the body of the island, the bedrock, the foundation, and human hands reached into that body and carved away everything that was not temple, everything that was not sacred space. They found the temple inside the stone, the way Michelangelo claimed to find the sculpture inside the marble. They did not create, they revealed. And what they revealed holds you now. The curved walls, the low ceiling, the smooth, golden surfaces that catch the dim light and glow with a warmth that seems to come from within the stone itself. You are held by something very old, something that was old when the pyramids were new, something that was ancient when Rome was a village of mud huts on the banks of the Tiber. something that has been holding the dead of Malta in its stone embrace since before the invention of writing or the wheel or the smelting of metal. Close your eyes, you do not need them here. The Hypogeum was made for darkness. Its rituals were performed in lamplight or in no light at all. Its dead were laid to rest in the dark. Its secrets were spoken into the oracle niche and carried through the stone by vibrations that had no need for illumination. This is a place that was designed to be experienced with senses other than sight, with hearing, with touch, with the deep proprioceptive sense that tells you where your body is in space. Whether you are enclosed or exposed, held or floating, safe or vulnerable. You are enclosed, you are held, you are safe. The stone curves around you, above you, beside you, below you. You are in the center of the earth, not literally, but it feels that way, the surface, with its sunlight and its wind and its noise and its endless demands, is somewhere above you, far above you. You do not need to think about it. You do not need to attend to it. It will be there when you return, but for now, you are here in the quiet, in the cool, in the gentle, unchanging embrace of the deep stone. The oracle chamber is nearby. You can feel it more than hear it, a resonance, a vibration so low it is almost below the threshold of hearing, 110 Hertz, the frequency of deep rest, the frequency that shifts the brain from its busy, analytical, problem-solving mode into something softer, something more receptive, something that does not think so much as feel, that does not analyze so much as receive, that does not worry so much as simply be. Someone is speaking, somewhere in the Hypogeum. Someone has leaned close to the carved niche and spoken, a deep voice, a man's voice, and the stone has caught the sound and is sending it through the chambers, through the passages, through the walls themselves. The sound does not have a source. It does not come from any particular direction. It comes from everywhere, from the stone, from the air, from inside your own body. It is a humming. A deep, steady, all-encompassing humming that vibrates in your chest and your jaw and the base of your skull. It is not unpleasant. It is not frightening. It is soothing, like a lullaby sung in a language too old for words, like the sound the earth itself might make if it could sing. A deep, maternal, geological sound, the sound of stone holding bone, of the earth holding the dead, of the darkness holding the sleeper. The sleeping lady sleeps. She has been sleeping for 5,000 years. Her eyes are closed, her body is curled, her head rests on its pillow. She does not stir, she does not wake. She does not need to. Whatever she is dreaming, it is enough. It sustains her. It holds her in its gentle current the way the earth holds the Hypogeum, completely, patiently, without any need for it to end. You can sleep too, you have permission. The sleeping lady gives it. The Hypogeum gives it. The deep stone and the cool air and the steady temperature of 16 degrees and the low, resonant humming of 110 Hertz, all of it gives permission. This is a place made for sleep, for rest, for the deep, unhurried, uninterrupted surrender of consciousness to the darkness. Spirals on the walls are turning, slowly in the dim light or in the darkness behind your closed eyes. The red ochre spirals are turning, winding inward toward a center, toward a still point at the heart of the curve where motion stops and everything is quiet. Follow them, not with effort, not with concentration. Just let your attention drift along the curve of the spiral, the way a leaf drifts on the surface of a slow stream, carried by the current, moving without effort, turning without will. Following the path that the water chooses. The spiral turns, inward, deeper, slower, each revolution wider than the last, or is it narrower? It does not matter. The direction does not matter. What matters is the turning itself, the gentle, endless, hypnotic turning. the way the spiral pulls you toward its center without force, without urgency, without any need for you to do anything at all. You are in the earth. The earth is around you, above you, below you, on every side. The weight of it is not oppressive, it is comforting. The way the weight of a heavy blanket is comforting on a cold night. The way the weight of a sleeping cat on your chest is comforting. The earth presses gently against the walls of the chamber, and the walls hold, and the air inside is still and cool and sweet, and you are held. The temple builders understood this. They understood that the earth is not hostile, that going underground is not an act of burial but an act of return. We come from the earth. Our bodies are made from its elements. Our bones are calcium and phosphorus, minerals drawn from the soil by the plants we eat. Our blood carries iron that was once locked in the red ochre that stains the walls of this chamber. We are the earth, temporarily shaped into human form, and when we sleep, when we truly, deeply sleep, we return to it, not permanently, not yet, but in the way that the tide returns to the sea each evening only to come back with the morning. Sleep is a rehearsal for return, a practice run, a gentle reminder that the earth is not something separate from us, but something we are part of. The 7,000 are sleeping, all around you, in their niches and their chambers and their stone-carved resting places. The dead of Malta are sleeping. They have been sleeping for 5,000 years. Their bones are stained with red ochre. Their skulls face the painted spirals. They are held by the same stone that holds you, embraced by the same darkness, cradled by the same cool, patient, unchanging air. They are not frightening. They are not ghosts. They are not restless spirits howling in the dark. They are sleepers, the oldest sleepers in the world, and the silence that surrounds them is not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of profound rest. The silence you hear in a room where a child has just fallen asleep. The silence that follows the last note of a lullaby. The silence that is not absence but presence. The presence of peace. Let yourself join them. Not in death, in sleep. Let yourself lie down in the darkness of the Hypogeum and close your eyes and feel the stone beneath you and the stone above you and the stone on every side. Let the temperature hold you at 16 degrees. Let the humidity settle on your skin like the gentlest mist. Let the humming of 110 Hertz vibrate through your body, through your chest, through your jaw, through the base of your skull, loosening everything, softening everything, dissolving the last stubborn knots of tension that the waking world has tied in your muscles and your mind. The sleeping lady sleeps beside you. Her terracotta form is small and warm and perfectly still. Her eyes are closed, her breathing, if terracotta could breathe, would be slow and steady and deep. She has been doing this for 50 centuries. She is very good at it. Follow her lead. Let your breathing slow. Let it deepen. Let each exhale carry away a little more of the day's weight, a little more of the surface world's noise, a little more of the tension and the worry and the relentless forward pressure of modern life. In, out, steady as the tide, steady as the turning of the spiral, steady as the deep geological patience of the limestone that surrounds you. You are safe, you are held, you are in the oldest temple in the underground world, and the temple is holding you the way it has held the dead of Malta for 5,000 years. Gently, completely, without any need for you to do anything at all. The air is cool, the stone is smooth, the darkness is complete, and somewhere in the chambers around you, vibrating through the carved walls and the corbelled ceilings and the trilithon doorways and the painted spirals, the deep, resonant voice of the oracle chamber is humming, 110 Hertz, the frequency of deep rest, the frequency that shifts the brain from thinking to feeling, from analyzing to receiving, from waking to sleeping. It is not a sound you hear with your ears. It is a sound you feel in your bones, the way the sleeping lady feels it in her terracotta bones, the way the 7,000 feel it in their ochre-stained bones, the way the earth itself feels the deep vibrations of its own geological processes, the slow shifting of tectonic plates, the patient accumulation of sediment, the quiet crystallization of minerals in the darkness of the deep rock. Sleep now, the hypogeum holds you, the earth holds you, the stone that was carved 5,000 years ago by hands you will never know and for reasons you will never fully understand. That stone holds you. It does not ask anything of you. It does not require your attention or your understanding or your gratitude. It simply holds, the way the earth holds, the way the darkness holds, the way sleep itself holds the sleeper, gently, completely, asking nothing in return. The spirals are turning, the sleeping lady sleeps. The oracle chamber hums its deep, ancient note, and you are descending, not downstairs, not through passages, you are descending into sleep, into the deep, quiet, underground sleep that the temple builders knew, the sleep that is not absence but presence, not emptiness but fullness, not death but rest. Deep rest, the deepest rest, the rest that the earth has been offering since long before the first human hand carved the first chamber in the soft limestone of Malta, the rest that the stone knows, the rest that the darkness knows, the rest that is always waiting beneath the surface, beneath the noise, beneath the light, patient and cool and unchanging, ready to receive you whenever you are ready to descend. You are ready now, you have descended, you are here, in the quiet, in the cool, in the deep, golden, humming darkness of the hypogeum, the temple beneath the earth, the oldest underground sanctuary in the world, a place that has been holding sleepers for 5,000 years, and now it holds you. Let the stone hold you, let the darkness hold you, let the deep, resonant, bone-deep humming of 110 Hertz carry you down, 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 into the sleep that the sleeping lady has been demonstrating for 50 centuries. The perfect sleep, the unbroken sleep, the sleep that does not resist or struggle or grasp at wakefulness, but simply lets go, simply surrenders, simply curls into the darkness and closes its eyes and breathes, slowly, deeply, steadily. And sleeps. The spirals turn inward, toward the center, toward the still point, toward silence. The humming fades, not because it stops, because you are too deep to hear it now. You have passed below the level of hearing, below the level of thought, below the level of everything except the simple animal awareness of being held, of being warm, of being safe, of breathing, in, out, out. The earth holds you, the stone holds you, the sleeping lady sleeps beside you, the 7,000 sleep around you, the painted spirals turn above you, and the hypogeum, the temple beneath the earth, the oldest underground sanctuary ever built by human hands, cradles you in its carved limestone arms and asks nothing of you, nothing at all, only that you sleep. Sleep. The island of Malta floats on the Mediterranean like a small golden stone on a vast blue cloth. Above the hypogeum, the sun has set. The stars are coming out. The warm night air carries the scent of salt and thyme and the dry mineral smell of sun-heated limestone cooling in the darkness. Somewhere in Paula, in the streets above your head, a dog barks once and falls silent. A church bell marks the hour and the sound fades into the night like a stone sinking into water. Below the streets, below the foundations of the houses and the shops and the churches, the hypogeum is quiet, the chambers are dark, the painted spirals are invisible in the blackness. The carved pillars and lintels stand in their places as they have stood for 5,000 years, as they will stand for 5,000 more. The oracle chamber is empty. The Holy of Holies is empty. The sleeping lady is in her museum case in Valletta, but her spirit, if terracotta has a spirit, is here. In the darkness, in the stone. And you are here, sleeping, the way the sleeping lady sleeps, the way the 7,000 sleep, the way the earth itself sleeps, slowly, deeply, patiently, wrapped in its own quiet darkness, dreaming its own ancient geological dreams. The Mediterranean laps at the shore of Malta. That sound, the oldest lullaby in the world, the soft, rhythmic washing of water against stone, reaches even here, not as sound, as vibration, as a deep, barely perceptible tremor in the limestone, transmitted through the rock from the coast to the chambers of the Hypogeum. The pulse of the sea felt through the body of the island. It is steady, rhythmic, unceasing. The sea has been lapping at Malta's shores since long before the temple builders carved their first chamber. It will be lapping long after the last carved surface has weathered to dust. It is the heartbeat of the island, and you can feel it, faintly, distantly, like a heartbeat heard through a wall, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Sleep. The temple holds you, the earth holds you, the night holds you. Sleep.